So picture this. You're sitting in your office and you know it's about to happen. You know, that conversation that you've been putting off that you really don't want to have. All of a sudden, your stomach is churning in knots. Your head is thinking about all the bad things that could potentially go wrong. And your heart is sitting there thinking, I wish I could be anywhere other than this place right now. You know that experience? Well, if you do, you're pretty normal. But here's the good news. What great leaders learn very quickly is that having crucial conversations is actually a superpower for leadership. It's one of those tools that you can use anytime, any place, anywhere to actually improve performance and to solve employee problems and to encourage them to produce at a higher level, to increase trust, and actually to solidify the relationship with those people. It all happens when you understand how to have these crucial conversations. So what I want to do in this video is I want to give you a step-by-step process that you can use anytime, any place to have a difficult conversation that will actually build the relationship, improve performance, and allow you to sleep a whole lot better. So with that said, let's dig in. Here's number one. The first step is that you need to convene the crucial conversation ASAP. Convene it ASAP. The mistake so many business owners and entrepreneurs make is they tend to put off these conversations for a long span of time. They just don't want to be that guy or that girl. They don't want to be the person who's always riding people. And so they see it, they observe it, and they want to see it several times, and then maybe they'll confront it. But they put it off a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or sometimes months before they're willing to have the conversation. And by then, it ends up blowing up and being a big issue. What you want to do is you want to solve the problem ASAP. So if you're in a meeting at 10 o'clock and it ends at 11 o'clock, on the way out, you want to say, hey, Bruce, can we take 5 minutes? And you deal with it right then and there. Or if it happens sometime during the day, you say, hey, today, sometime between 2 and 4, let's get together for a couple minutes. But you do it that day. The old biblical phrase is, don't let the sun go down on your anger, meaning deal with it as soon as possible. So if you can reduce the amount of time between when the infraction happens and when you have the conversation, you're actually going to be in a much better place. It won't be as big of a conversation. It won't be as difficult to have. And you're doing it right away, so you don't have a lot of time to build up that fear of having the conversation. So step one, if you want to get good at this, convene the conversation ASAP. Number two, make sure you're sensitive to the time and place. Always be sensitive to the time and place. In general, very few people like to be confronted in front of other people. So if you can, make sure you have the conversation after the meeting or someplace where everybody isn't listening in on your conversation, or the door is closed so that everyone's not listening. Or maybe you need to go to a restaurant and have a conversation with them. Back in my old pastoral days, I used to give that advice all the time to couples because people usually don't shout and scream and throw plates in a restaurant, but they might in a home, or in this case here, an office place. So be sensitive to the time and place. Don't try to do it in front of a lot of other people. Protect somebody, because if you do it in front of other people, not only are they going to feel bad, but they'll probably want to be more defensive and start attacking you. So make sure you choose the time and place. If, they've got to go pick up their kid at 5 o'clock and you're saying, hey, we need to have a conversation, that's being totally insensitive. So know your people, know what the schedule is, convene it as soon as possible, but just be sensitive to the time and the place for having the conversation. You want to have some space and not do it in 2 or 3 minutes. So that's number two. Number three, the third thing is to practice all of the best practices you've heard. And I'm sure you've heard plenty. This is probably not the first video you've ever heard on having crucial conversations. So practice all the stuff you know. You've probably heard that you should use I statements instead of you statements. When you say, you did this, you, it's very accusatory. When you say, hey, this is how I'm feeling, or this is what I observed. When you do that, it brings down the tone of the conversation, and it doesn't feel like you're being so aggressive toward them. So that's a really good one to do. My favorite is always to be Socrates, meaning you need to ask more than you tell. So ask lots of questions. Help me understand. I observe this. I'm not sure I understand why. Could you help me understand why? So ask questions rather than try to tell somebody something. That's a really good best practice to use. Listening, the old adage, 2 ears, 1 mouth should visually tell us we should listen more than we're speaking. That's another good one you should use. Making sure you have lots of examples, or an example of if it just happened. In that meeting, at 10 o'clock we had, about halfway through, Sally said this, and then you responded X. And did you observe how Sally responded when you said that? Right? So you have the examples, all really good stuff to do. Sometimes the advice you get from other people isn't great. And you just have to learn which ones to listen to, which ones not to. One that you should not listen to is the old sandwiching idea. You want to say something positive, then you say the thing you need to that's critical, and then you say with the positive thing at the end. Really bad strategy. Anytime you say anything and then say but, you immediately discounted everything in front of it. So if you say something positive and say but, they don't care about anything you said ahead of time. So what you want to do, best practice, is if you have to have a crucial conversation, you go to the crucial conversation right away, get that out of the way, and then you can move on to something positive if you want. But forget the whole sandwich idea. It's a totally stupid idea. Never do that again. So step 3, practice all the best practice stuff you've heard. You should use it. I don't need to go over that. Step number 4, help them see the gap. This is one of the things that a lot of people don't do when they're having these crucial conversations. But if you want to master it. If you've ever done anything in sales, you know that all sales is to the gap. Well, the same thing in changing people's behavior. You need to help them see the gap. So let's say that you have an employee, we'll call him Robert, and he was supposed to get a spreadsheet done by 4 o'clock that one of your other employees, Barb, was going to need tomorrow morning for a meeting with the client at 8 a.m. What you need to be able to say to Robert is, so Robert, yesterday you were supposed to get this done at 4 o'clock, and you left at 5 o'clock and it wasn't done. You didn't say anything. You didn't email Barb or me or let me know that it was going to get done later in the evening. We heard nothing. So that's what happened, and this is what we expected. So it's supposed to be done at 4. It wasn't done at 5. Can you see that there's a disconnect here? Can you see the gap? And you want to make sure that people actually see the gap between the expectation and their deliverance of their performance. And if they can't see the gap, then you need to keep digging at the conversation until they go, yeah, I can clearly see that. Okay, once you can clearly see the gap, then you know you've got something, because the change is going to be in the gap, right? So help somebody understand the gap. That's number 4. Number 5, then, if you've done anything with sales, you know you want to expand the gap. So step 5 is you need to help them see the consequences. Because if they don't see the consequences, then they're just going to think this was just, my boss, they're just blowing off steam. And then they're going to go on and keep doing the same thing. You want to help them see, like, no, this was bad and it was really bad. So help them see the consequences of their action. So, Robert, what do you think were some of the consequences of not getting this done at 4? I don't know. Barbara wouldn't have had her stuff in time. Well, let me go a little bit further than that. How do you think this has affected our relationship? What do you think I think about you because I asked you to get something done at 4 and you didn't get it done? I don't know. Well, do you think I feel good about your integrity? Do you think I feel good about how you can deliver on your promises? Do I feel more empowered to want to give you a task and assume that it'll get done by that time? Probably not. Okay, so now he's beginning to understand that there's some consequences on him. And then you're going to say, so it wasn't done by 5. She needed it in the morning. Guess what? I stayed here until 6:15 doing the work that you were supposed to get done by 4. Why did I do that? Because I wasn't going to leave Barbara in the lurches. So I stayed late, which meant that I didn't get home on time, which meant that I wasn't there at dinner time with my family because you did not get the work done that you were supposed to get done on that spreadsheet by 4 o'clock. Oh. And by the way, how do you think Barbara would have felt if she got there in the morning and the spreadsheet wasn't done? What do you think were the consequences of her if she's sitting in front of an employee, a customer, and opens up the spreadsheet and all the data's not there? What would that have felt like for her? You see what I'm saying? Like when you're having the conversation, you're not accusing the person. You're just trying to help them using questions to see there's a gap and there's some consequences to that gap. Because until people feel the consequences, they're not actually going to change the behavior. So now that you help them understand that there are some consequences, what comes next? Well, that's step number 6. And step number 6, you want to help them uncover the why. Remember, if someone does something, it's because they have a belief. So you want to ask them, so why do you think you thought it was okay to leave at 5 o'clock and not get the work done at 4 that you had promised to get done by 4? Well, I don't know, right? Like, you have to keep digging and asking questions. Well, there's some belief that you have that made you think that it was okay to not get it done by 4, and then it was okay to leave by 5 and not say anything to anybody. There's a belief that you have. So let's talk about that. And then you help them uncover the belief. And if they don't, you say, well, if it's me observing the only beliefs I can come up with, and then you come up with some beliefs that you might think they might have. Like, do you believe that, getting your email done is more important than getting your work done for your fellow employees? Is that what you believe? Is it all about you? Like, what allows you to think that it's okay to leave without letting somebody know that you didn't get something done? Try to uncover the why. Now, I'm talking about some of the bad whys. Like, there could be some good reasons why they didn't get it done. It might be that another coworker, another manager in your department, in your company, came by and said, "Hey, I need this done by X, Y, Z time, and it needs to be done immediately." And Robert thought, like, it had to be done immediately, and I do these spreadsheets all the time, so I better do this thing. And then you go, okay, now that's something I didn't know, right? It might be that they got a call at 4:00 from their spouse that their kid was at school and they needed a ride home, and they just immediately dropped everything and left. So we don't know. And that's one of the things I want to hopefully get across in this video is the reason you have these conversations is because you don't know until you actually have the conversation. In your mind, you might be clear, but you might have no idea what's actually going on until you have the conversation. So you don't want to walk in accusatory. You want to walk in because you want to help this person become better. And there's information you don't have, but at the end of this conversation, you'll have the information and you'll know a better reason why something happened. So that's step 6. You need to uncover the reason why, because that leads to step 7, which is then you need to create a simple plan. Create a simple plan. It might mean that all Robert has to do, is he just simply needs to apologize to you and to Barbara. Like, that's it. We're done. Good. Like, he's owning his stuff. I messed up. I made a mistake. I won't do it again. Great. The plan might be that there might be some things that Robert didn't understand about filling in the spreadsheet. He had never done it before, and he simply needed to learn some things or take some training in order to be able to complete the task, which he was just afraid to ask anybody, and that's the reason why he didn't get it done. Or it might be there's really nothing to be done. His kid had a problem. He had to leave immediately. What we need to do is set up a system so that when that happens, you need to let somebody else know so that somebody else can cover and get this work done. Oh, I just didn't know that. Well, that's a pretty simple plan. Or it might be there's a character issue that you need to work on over the course of the next 3 or 6 months. You don't know going in what the plan's going to be, but when you finish up, you should have a plan that the two of you feel good about executing so that he's going to perform, or if it's a she's going to perform at a better and higher level, and we've resolved the conflict. And then, if you want a bonus step, you want to wrap up things well. So kind of step 8, the bonus step would be wrap it up well. So just when it's all done, you've had the conversation, you just want to say, so how are we doing? And give them the opportunity to say, hey, we're doing okay. Like, this was fair. You didn't really come down too hard on me. I think everything you said was accurate. Like, we're good. Okay. Like, they might not be happy, but they might feel relationally good. Like, there's no conflict. They're not angry at you. I'll often ask questions like, is there anything you feel like I didn't hear or I didn't understand? Give them the freedom to do that. Is there anything that you wanted to say that you didn't say? Give them those freedom opportunities to be able to communicate what they're thinking inside. And then when you're done, just say, so we're okay? And they'll go, yeah, we're okay. Awesome. You finished the meeting. So you've taken something that was an issue, you've resolved that issue, and your relationship is actually better. And they're going to be more productive, and they're going to be a better person. As a leader, this is one of the best things. It's one of your superpowers. If you get really good at having these kinds of conversations, you have them ASAP, you make sure that you're sensitive to the time and the place, you do the best practices, you make sure you understand and help them understand the gap, and then you wind it to say they see the consequences, you help them uncover the why, you create a simple plan, and you wrap things up well. You do that, you become a master at it. You're going to find this is your new superpower. And you're going to end up enjoying having these conversations, not because they're fun, but because you know the end result of having those conversations. So I hope this was helpful. And if it was, I think you're really going to love this other video on how to help your team when they're experiencing low morale. So until next time, to your accelerated success, Bruce out.